Have you thought about developing your audience beyond your home base? Well, if you have, then you'll definitely want to check out our interview with Jason Miller, CEO at Eventim Live Asia. We discuss what are the best strategies for new artists to develop an audience in Asia, as well as how you as an artist can get on his radar, and much, much more. Right now. This episode of the MUBUTV Insider video series is brought to you by the Music Business Registry. The Music Business Registry is the leading music industry publisher of the most up-to-date contact information for major and independent record label A&R, music publishers, artist managers, music attorneys, music supervisors, and much, much more. The Music Business Registry is the trusted industry standard and source serving the music business community for over 30 years with the most accurate and up-to-date contact information available. Their titles include the A&R Registry, the Film and Television Music Guide, the Music Publisher Registry, and the Music Attorney Registry. All of their publications are available in PDF, CSV, or online subscription. Visit musicregistry.com and use coupon code MUBUTV10 at checkout. That's musicregistry.com, coupon code MUBUTV10. When you're ready to put your music to work, musicregistry.com. Hi, it's Eric Knight from MUBUTV, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage your music career. We're coming to you from the Global Rock Summit in Burbank, California, where we managed to catch up with Jason Miller, who is the CEO of Eventim Live Asia. Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Sure.
I know you just got off your panel here at Global Rock Summit about the state of the worldwide rock industry, and I'm wondering from your perspective, what is the current demand for rock music today in the Asian market?
I think it's strong, right? It's strong for the right bands. It's strong for bands who've put in time in that part of the world. I think that's true of a lot of the emerging markets, that the fan base in rock is loyal. And if you put in the time when you're at the early stages of your career, ultimately that pays dividends decades later.
Yeah, so it's putting in the work early on if you're a new band or if you're an established act.
Yeah, although, you know, it's funny because actually the last event I did prior to COVID was U2,
Wow.
and U2 had never been to Asia.
Which is incredible because they're such
you know,
a global rock
plus,
band. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. So they're
or at
just
least
starting
those markets they hadn't been to. So
interesting.
So I guess the answer is either put in time or put in no time,
Right.
and just be U2.
Exactly. Does Eventim Live Asia work with new independent artists in the region?
We're certainly open to. So the company launched last July during COVID. Eventim is a very large concert promotion company in Europe.
Right.
One, arguably the biggest in Europe and also the biggest ticketing company over there. The Asia division specifically is brand new.
Okay.
So I'm open to working with all sorts of artists, and certainly if we can make it work financially for both the artist and ourselves, happy to do that.
For new and up and coming artists, what are some of the best strategies for developing audiences in the Asian market, do you feel? I mean, you've been in that market for a while, you know it well.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's entirely different than any other part of the world. I think it starts with authenticity.
Right.
It starts with engaging your fans with that authenticity. And then having hits doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah, definitely. Can you take us through, we've been asking these new questions where we ask our guests to take us through a typical day. What would a typical day entail for Jason Miller over at Eventim Live Asia? Because it's got to be crazy.
Yeah, it's sort of unique for me because I'm currently based here in Los Angeles during COVID. So when I wake up very early in the morning, it's very late in Asia, but it's also the end of the day in Europe where my European colleagues are based. So my day tends to be very busy first thing in the morning and then very busy at night when Asia starts to open up. While most people here in LA are busiest during the day, that tends to be the quiet time when I can actually catch up on work.
Yeah, and what are some of the day-to-day things that you're worrying about, like on a typical day? Like what kinds of things are you actually involved in?
I think it's about chasing tours, right?
Okay.
Ultimately, it's about bringing in tours that are successful. It's having those conversations with managers, with agents, and trying to find the right time in an artist's career to come, where to play, ticket prices, are they coming with other artists, are they going on festivals, are they using festivals as an anchor to their tour? These are all sorts of things that have to be hammered.
And is that something that you guys are seeking out yourselves as Eventim? You're seeking out those acts, or you're getting a lot of like the agents and managers that are reaching out to you and saying, hey, we've got X band coming out in 6 months, and you're trying to lay that groundwork? Or does that work either way in terms of them reaching out to you, or are you guys doing a lot of reaching out in terms of the acts?
Yeah, I think it's both.
Okay.
I think for Eventim, one of my missions has been reminding the rest of the music business that Asia is 2/3 of the world's population.
Right.
That's a lot of people,
Yeah.
right? And yet, interestingly, surprisingly, Asia is typically not everyone's focus, right?
Right.
Lots of these artists, they'll play North America, they'll go over to Western Europe, maybe they'll come back to the United
Well,
States.
you too, like you just stated, the
That's
biggest
exactly
band
right.
in the world, and they had never been to those markets. Yeah.
So trying to remind everyone, hey, Asia is open for business, or will be,
Right.
and a tremendous amount of popularity for these bands exists. It's harder to get them there than you would think.
Yeah. And what does that do to? What do you think that's due to for getting those acts over there? Is it the distance? Is it, I'm just curious. From
Yeah,
you.
I think a lot of it has to do with things that are entirely out of my control,
Right.
which are geography,
Right.
right, and so ultimately, if you're a new band, you can kind of you could set up anywhere. You could set up at
Right.
a coffee shop
Right.
and play. But some of the bigger bands that are coming with bigger production,
Productions, right.
that's very expensive to move around. And in Asia, essentially, you're flying it to every location, right? So even though we could ultimately pay any A-list artist the same amount of money in, say, Singapore or Tokyo as they would make in Chicago or London,
Right.
the cost to do so in
Is much
Asia
more.
tends to be higher.
Yeah.
And so the net to the artist tends to be lower.
Right.
And so that, I think, is the struggle. And I think because Asia is not the first part of the world that's on people's mind,
Right.
the bands tour the rest of the world, and frankly, they just get tired,
Yeah.
right? Touring is grueling. It's exhausting, and if you've played 100+ shows,
Right.
it can be, oh, we'll do it on the next record.
Right.
I hear that a
exactly.
lot.
Yeah. How does a new artist or band get on your radar at Eventim Live for bookings, and what is the criteria that you guys look for?
I think, look, I'm still a music fan like everyone else in this business, so I try and listen as much as I can, but a lot of times it's coming from management, from agents, approaching us on the new projects they're working on, trying to figure out how best we bring that act to that part of the world. Timing is always critical. If they are attached to a label, that label's gonna have opinions because they've got parts of the world they want them to go to as well that maybe take priority or not. So it's a combination of all of those.
And are you finding a lot of the agents and like managers, they're obviously looking through analytics, they're checking Spotify numbers and
Yeah.
stuff. Is that how they're basing their tours a lot to get into those markets that you guys represent?
Yeah, I think it is, we've got more information today than we've ever had, right?
Right.
There's more data. I can do deep dives on how popular is this artist in this market.
Right.
But ultimately, just because people are listening to the song on Spotify or YouTube or whatever it may be, that doesn't always transfer to buying an actual concert ticket,
Right.
particularly the more expensive concert tickets. So at the end of the day, it really is a gut, right?
Right.
You take a look at all the data you're given and then you make a gut judgment.
Right, absolutely. Jason, are there any specific books or videos or media that you would recommend to our insiders that would be helpful in shaping their career, their music career? Is there anything that influenced you or things that you can share with our audience, whether it's film or movies or books?
There's a book that was written many decades ago, well before my time, that was life-changing for me. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes.
Right? Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie.
And ultimately, I think, and this is really valid for any industry, not just
Right.
the music business, but I think learning about people, how people tick, how to communicate with one another in a real meaningful, proactive way, authentic way, is incredibly important and can suit anyone in whatever industry they're in.
Yeah, that's one of my that's a book that you read like every year.
Yeah.
That's the go-to book.
Yeah.
What advice would you give, or do you have as a music industry executive for up-and-coming artists who are looking to have a career in music? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think you got to take chances, right? Art, music is ultimately art, and art is about authenticity and creativity. And so I think taking those chances, being able to, you're only young once, right? And I think that's true on the executive side as well. I think you have to take advantage of your youth. When you've got the energy, you've got the creativity, you've got the drive. All of those things can be hampered later in life when responsibilities start taking over, mortgages, families, husbands and wives, that sort of thing. So I think taking those big risks, as I did when I graduated college, moved out to LA, I didn't know a single person, right? Not one. No, I don't think I knew anyone west of the Mississippi.
Wow.
So, but that's probably not a chance I might have taken at 40. So that would probably be my number one piece of advice.
Great stuff coming from Jason on how to develop an audience in Asia, coming from one of the leading promoters of live talent in the Far East, Eventim Live. So insiders, here's the question of the day. What really stood out to you in the conversation with Jason? Was it which musical genres have the most interest in the live music sector in Asia? Or was it some of the strategies for developing audiences in the Asian market? Or was it the criteria or what he looks for booking new artists? Or maybe it was something else that connected with you. We'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to MUBUTV for more information on how to educate, empower, and engage your music career. You can also check out a summary of this episode and everything we talked about in the description below as well. And if you enjoyed this video, we'd really love it if you hit the like button and let us know what other kinds of content and videos you'd like to see on this channel. Hit us up in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.